This week we are starting our fourth and final project, the Twine game. So this is essentially a class game jam, and if you're not familiar with what a game jam is, it's when people get together, you have a limited amount of time to create a game, and it's just like a nice group experience. So there's actually not a prompt. If you're familiar with game jams, there's usually a prompt, but there's not a prompt in the sense that there's usually a prompt. It's not like, create a psychological horror game. You have a lot of creative freedom. So the beginning of this prompt is telling you basically that you're going to be making a Twine game, and you're going to be coming up with the story and the characters and the choices all on your own. So we're going to be practicing stuff like this. We're going to be building characters. You're not going to be just thrown into the deep. I mean, some of you may feel like that. It is pretty intimidating. But for the next 4 weeks, we're going to be building elements of our game. And I've also given you some brainstorming fodder here. Just like 12 little prompts to get you thinking about what you should put in your game. So it should be a narrative game, because in this class we've been talking about narrative-based storytelling in video games. So there should be a story somewhere, beginning, middle, end. Your character should change, your character should have agency, whoever your character is. Your character can be a third person, like the player is controlling the character from the outside looking in. Your character can be the player themselves. It's really up to you. But you need to start thinking about, these choices that you're making and why. And that's what these 12 questions are doing. You'll have 3 weeks to create the first drafts before we go into playtesting, which is what we call basically peer review for this project. Your peers are going to be playing your games and offering critique. You're going to have just one peer to review this time around because these games can get pretty involved. So you'll just have a playtesting partner. But you're going to have 3 weeks to create the game. And that's because we only have 5 weeks left in the semester. So let's see. We're here. And then our last day is December 8th. That's going to be the last day you have to turn everything in. So we have this week, 2, 3, 4, 5 more weeks. And you can see that in the course map as well. Starting quest 4, then we're here on week 12. You have 3 weeks to create your draft, and then during week 15, you'll have to playtest / peer review. Then the last week is going to be for revising your games and getting your final portfolios in order. With reflections, I should add. If you haven't done reflections yet, that's going to be kind of a pain to do if you put it off any longer. I've had some questions about reflections, and that's kind of understandable, but they're in every prompt. You're always reflecting on every single letter for each project. You're answering these 2 questions. I might make a separate video about SLO reflections, because I did mess up the game review SLO reflections, I think. I copied the SLO page instead of creating a new one, so it didn't create a separate Dropbox. And I talked about that a little in the announcements last week. So I might make a separate video about SLO reflections. But I'm getting a little off topic. Going back to the prompt. That's just to give you a brief timeline about what you can expect for the rest of the course. There we go. So start thinking through these 12 questions now even. This week we're going to be doing a character builder. The next week we're going to be working more on plot. But you should start writing this game sooner rather than later. If you want to talk to me and, use me as a sounding board to bounce ideas off of, I'm more than happy to do that over Zoom or over email. The purpose, this should showcase your creativity in addition to everything you've learned about storytelling and video games in the course. So we've analyzed a lot of games in this course, and now we are using that to create our own games. Audience rhetorical situation. This is a class game jam. Without the competition, we're not competing with each other, we're having fun. But you do have a limited amount of time. You have 3 weeks. And this project should be, like, here are the requirements. So if you need to know what you have to put into the project, there aren't very many, but you do have some requirements. It should be 3,000 to 6,000 words. So my project, my game, Dead Horses, which you can choose to play through or not. I'm not going to make you play my game. It's not great, but it was my first time trying this out. I had a lot of fun with it. I do a lot of choices. We experiment a lot with this. And this ended up being 6,000 words. So it feels like, I don't know, what is it, a 10, 20 minute experience? I haven't timed it. But this is 6,000 words. 3,000 words would be fine. But don't think about word count too much. Just think about creating something substantial and meaningful. I only give the word count to keep people from making 7 cells and being done with it. I don't know. Maybe you could do a lot with 7 cells. And when I say cells, that's the little boxes here. So it's just to keep you thinking about, creating something, beefy, instead of just, trying to do the assignment and not really caring about what you're making. I want it to be meaningful. You do have to include at least 5 choices, and what I mean by choices is including something. I'm actually going to go back and show you how I did that. But when I'm creating my game here and I want to play it to see what I've done so far, you can click play, and that just opens it up in your browser. So when I say choice, I mean including at least 2 options here, 2 clickable options. This is a choice because I can choose this one or I can choose this one. I don't always have choices. For example, I just have this saying yes coach. And that's not a choice because that just advances things. So I have some cells that are like that, but most of my cells have some sort of choice. Sometimes the choices matter and sometimes they don't. It's a lot of work to create a lot of choices. I've even got a pulse wave terminal here, checking our messages. Ignore them. Continue. We can browse the socials. So I got a little convoluted with this section here, and then you can see I got kind of tired after that section, and I just went straight narrative right here. So do what feels good to you. Spend the time that you need to spend, but that's what I mean by choices. You need to have at least 5 different choices, and that doesn't mean you have to have 5 separate options here. This just means you need to do this, choose one or the other 5 times. So I've done it once, I've done it twice, I've done it 3 times, I've done it 4 times, I've done it 5 times. You'll probably have more, but you need at least 5. Alright, let's get out of this. You need to have at least 2 different endings. And in both of these situations, B and C, more choices, great. Fewer choices, not. You need at least 5 choices and at least 2 endings. You can always create more, but don't create less. Or fewer, sorry. And then it has to have a story. It has to have characters that change. We have to start in some situation and end up in a different situation. There are a lot of definitions of what story is, but through this class we've sort of hammered that down into, some rough definitions. The rubric, as usual, if you do the project and follow the requirements, you're going to be fine. And then again, the reflections are down here. I'm trying to think if there's anything I need to get to. Here, that if you want other people to play your game, you cannot grab this link. You can't grab this link, and you can't grab the link from your desktop. It won't allow them access. You have to go to itch.io and upload it to itch.io, and I've created a separate video about that. One thing about itch.io that I didn't talk about in the tutorial is you can see that I had graphics on my game. Or not necessarily graphics, but like, you know, a cover photo. Over here, upload cover image is where you can upload your cover if you have one. And for your end project, you probably want one, just to make it a little flavorful, you know? And I think that's about it. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to talk about your projects individually. If I get a lot of one question, I might make more videos. Yeah, we'll just see how this goes. Alright.